I want to open with a quote. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. That's Yoda from Star Wars. Earlier this year, me and my family went to Disneyland and it was amazing and it was a lot of fun. And some of our favorite rides actually were in Star Wars land, if you will. And I'm not a Star Wars guy. I've never watched Star Wars, but because it was so well done, I started getting into Star Wars a little bit and watching it. And I came across this quote, and I know, bear with me, because it's interesting because Yoda doesn't invent this progression. He just puts it in the movie. The Bible has been describing that exact chain for thousands of years, and for leaders specifically, people who carry pressure, responsibility, and the weight of other people's outcomes. This chain is not abstract. It's actually a daily reminder, a daily reality. James chapter 1 describes it in almost identical language. It says every person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Then, after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death. Same change, a little bit of different vocabulary. Unchecked emotion left to grow in the dark, eventually brings destruction. Not just to others, but to the people carrying it. Let me walk through each link, and I want you to think about where you are in this right now. Let's start with fear. Not the fear of God. Scripture calls that wisdom, actually. I'm talking about the fear of man. The fear of not being enough. The fear of losing control of something you've worked so hard to build. Proverbs 29:25 says, fear of man is a snare. And a snare it's not just inconvenience, right? It's a trap. Entrapped things end up reacting. Fear, left unchecked, almost always moves into anger. Anger, this is where leaders lose most ground because anger isn't always wrong. Jesus himself gets angry. It's a holy righteousness, but sustained anger, the kind that we feed as far as justifying, rehearse, and return to, this is a totally different thing. Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. He's not softening the law there. He's actually exposing the root. He's saying the destruction you see out there actually starts right here in anger that nobody saw and nobody addressed. Anger that we refuse to release doesn't stay angry or stay as anger. It begins to transform. It transforms. Hate is what anger becomes when it has nowhere to go and we stop fighting it. John says it plainly, anyone who hates a brother or a sister is a murderer. That's not a hyperbole. Hate doesn't just wound others, it actually kills something in the person carrying it. It serves. It doesn't serve us well, it actually severs us from the life we were called to live for and that we were made for. So fear, anger, hate, suffering. The chain is real, and for leaders who are under constant pressure, who face opposition, who carry the weight of the org, outcomes, and other people's futures, this chain can move really fast, faster than we even realize. The clearest picture of this chain is in all of Scripture is Cain. Genesis 4, Cain brings an offering to God, and God doesn't receive it with favor. And in that moment, something begins to stir in Cain, a deep, unsettling fear. Fear that, man, I'm not enough. Fear that he had been passed over. Cain was very angry and his face was downcast. You can see the progression. It's fear, then anger, and then he lures his brother into a field. It's a whole chain in one story, but here's what I want you to see, because this is the part that changes everything. Between the anger and what followed, God showed up. He asks Cain a question. He named what was happening. He said, sin is crouching at your door. It wants to have you, but you can rule over it. God interrupted the chain. He stepped into the space between the anger and then his next decision, and he offered a way out. And sadly, Cain doesn't take it, but the door was open for him to walk through. And here's the leadership application. God is doing the same thing for you right now. Whatever chain you're in, wherever fear has started moving towards anger, wherever anger has started to harden into something worse, he's standing between where you are and where that is leading. Simply asking a question, naming what's happening, and offering you a way out. The question in this moment is, will you take it? Here's the most important thing that I want to leave you with today. Jesus doesn't just warn us against the chain. He reverses it from the inside out. He enters the suffering. He absorbs the hate on the cross and doesn't return to it. He is slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. And then at the very beginning of the chain, at the place where fear starts everything, he does something that changes the math entirely. 1 John 4:18, there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. It's the antidote to the chain is not willpower. It's not trying harder to manage your anger, to suppress your fear. It's being caught up in love so complete, so unconditional, so unshakable, that fear simply has nowhere to stand. That's the gospel. God doesn't just tell us to break the chain, he actually breaks it for us. And then he invites us to live in this freedom. Fear, anger, hate, suffering, or perfect love drives out fear and the chain never starts. 3 questions to carry into your day. Where in that chain do you find yourself right now? Is it at the beginning of fear? Or maybe it's moved into anger, or maybe there's hate, even suffering. Be honest, don't perform for this answer. Like God did with Cain, what question might God be asking you before the next step in that chain? What is the interruption he's offering you right now? And what would it look like in one specific area of your leadership this week to let perfect love drive out the fear that's been sitting at your door?